So without further ado, a few housekeeping things that I always love to cover off. We do offer a help site, which is our site, help.loc8.com. So help.loc8.com is our help site, and hopefully you can see that there on the screen. As I mentioned before, we do record all of these masterclass series, and so they are available on our Vimeo account, which is vimeo.com/Loc8com, and you'll see that link there on the top of the screen. And here are a couple of the previous recordings that we've had. And then last but by no means least is our in-app chat option. To get access to that, all that you need to do is simply click on your little avatar there on the bottom left-hand corner and come up to the help option, and you'll be able to then go ahead and have a chat with us or send us a message. The really nice thing about this option is that it does record all of your previous conversations, and so you can go ahead and have a look at those previous conversations. They don't disappear. That's about a couple years, I think, of recordings that are captured there as well. So help.loc8.com, our Vimeo account, obviously our in-app chat option, which is available, and you can go ahead and get in touch with us whenever you have questions. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to assist where we can. So asset management. Actually, my apologies. Would help pressing the right button when it adjusts. There we go. Okay. So this is a test system that I do a lot of my demonstrations and a lot of my presentations on. And what I'll do is I'll go over a couple of things just to sort of start things off, and then I'll jump into some more finer points. So for those of you who have used the software previously and maybe have seen our asset management video, which again was available on our Vimeo account, and I probably can find it there if I load more at the bottom there. There we go. This has how to create video, asset video. What you'll find is that asset management is no more difficult than clicking on the create button here on the top right hand corner and choosing either a site or an asset. Now, when you do that, there are a number of pieces of information that you can fill in around things like who the customer is, what the name of the asset is, what the location is. But there is also, and to get into some advanced components, there is also an asset type that you need to choose as well. So you need to designate what type of asset you are creating. Now, I didn't really go over asset types with our asset creation video. Or our asset creation masterclass, I should say. And so what I'll do is I'll go over those asset types right now. So all I need to do is come down to the settings button here on the bottom of the screen. And if I go ahead and I jump over there, what that'll do is that'll open up an additional tab here for me. And what this starts delving into is the asset type concept. So what is it? What does it actually cover off, and what does it actually do? Basically, asset types are a classification system. What you're doing is that you're designating or defining what type of asset you are creating at this point. It's a TV, or it's a milling machine, or it's a fire blanket, as an example. Now, you can create very, very simple asset types, and this list that we're looking at here is a great example of that. So I can go ahead and I can basically create a very flat structure. I can have a smoke alarm asset type, or a smoke detector, or a fire blanket asset type. But what I can also do is I can also create what we refer to as child asset types. And the reason that you would do that is, well, there's a number of reasons why you would do that. But one of the many reasons why they would do that is because the classification using an asset type that is called a CAB 223 blanket, as opposed to just a fire blanket, has a couple of important impacts from a schedule maintenance perspective. Don't forget that one of the add-ons that we offer with the Loc8 software is a schedule maintenance add-on. And simply put, what that means is that you can automate your job creation process. Now, one of the steps that's involved in that scheduled maintenance process is choosing what type of asset you are going to include into that schedule. So what you don't do with scheduled maintenance is that you don't apply a particular asset, you apply a type of asset. And so if you have a scheduled maintenance situation where you need to, create jobs every 6 months for one type of fire blanket and create jobs every 3 months for a different type of fire blanket, then creating those different types of asset types right here that we're looking at here on the screen is the best place to do that. And so what this means is that you can designate you can create more specific or more detailed asset types. You can apply those asset types to those assets when you create them. And then the impact is that when you go ahead and you create or you go through a scheduled maintenance process, what you'll be able to do is that you'll be able to better assign to those schedules the types of assets that you want to create preventative maintenance jobs around. So that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we find customers create additional and child asset types in this asset types area. The other reason also, and the other little sort of, I suppose, tip as well, is that if I go back to my list of assets here and I do a search for assets, what I can do is I can do a search for, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll do a search for that CAB blanket. And if I go ahead and I click on apply, I get no results there. That's probably just more because of the lack of an asset using that particular asset type. If, however, I go ahead and, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll create a quick example here. So let me just CAB 223. Let's go ahead and create a quick example here for the purpose of this. And we'll choose a customer there. And as you can see, this is all a very, very easy process to do. And we'll click on create there in the bottom right-hand corner. What I can also do is I can go back and let's just see if we've got any fire blanket asset types. Fire blanket assets. And we don't have any fire blankets. But what you'll notice now that this particular asset comes up not because I filtered by that type of CAB 223 blanket, but because I filtered by the type of fire blankets. Now, let me just sort of jump back a bit here. The reason why that's behaving that particular way is because what I have done is I have basically said, I want to find all the assets that use the asset type of fire blankets or any of the child types as well. So this is a great example of how this whole concept of parent and child types is in actual fact a really, really handy feature. So another really great example that I've seen some customers do, you go ahead and you create, say, water filters or air conditioning units, or there's a whole range of types of scenarios that you can apply to here. And what you want to do is that you want to pull up the list of assets that or you want to pull up the entire list of air conditioning units that you have and see how many air conditioning units you have. Well, you can do that, and you can get that complete list, because the reality is that if you filter by its parent asset type, in this case fire blankets, what you'll get all the assets using the child asset types. So it's a really, really handy and amazingly cool little filtration feature when it comes to trying to get a better handle on what type of assets you have and all the filtration that goes with that as well. So that's the idea and the concept of asset types, and specifically the idea and the concept of child types and where they come into play and all those bits and pieces. The other thing I'd also mention when it comes to asset types, and some of you may I suspect be aware of this already, is that when you go ahead and you create asset types, and I'll go back and it's probably easiest if I show this to you with this particular asset. One of the things that you'll notice with this asset, hopefully when we created it, was that there were some additional fields that we had available here. So I had two data groups, as we call them, iPhone 6 data and 3.5 kilo CO2 data. And then we had an additional 4 fields that were contained in each of those data groups as well. Now, those data groups and the fields that are contained in them, those data groups and those fields are made available because they are attributed and linked to the actual asset type. So let's all look and let me show you how that looks. So if I come down to the asset types area again, and I look at the fire blankets, and I click on my view button there, what you'll notice is that that there are some custom fields here. And so these are the custom field groups that we have. There's that iPhone 6 data that we saw before, and that 3.5 kilo CO2 data. And those are 2 fields that are available at the fire blankets level. Now, if I was to go ahead and click on that particular child type and click on this view button right here, for this particular, the lower, the child asset type, what you'd notice is you notice that those 2 fields, those 2 field groups have flowed through. So a little bit of a scenario to try and sort of best to explain what I'm about to cover off here. We have customers who create child asset types where the naming terminology, in this particular case, CAB 223 blanket, that's important. But the other thing also that's important as well is the idea and the concept that there may be some additional information or some additional pieces of information or fields that they want to make visible for just those particular assets. You might find, that a particular air conditioning unit has a particular piece of equipment or a particular part that's attached to it that's only available for that particular type of air conditioning unit. Not all air conditioning units, just that particular type of air conditioning unit. And so because that is the case, then what we want to do is that we want to go ahead and we want to create some additional fields or add some additional fields, not to the overall asset type of fire blankets, but to this particular asset type. So this particular type of fire blanket here. To do that is very easy. If you simply go ahead and click on the Apply Custom Fields tab, and I'll just choose any one of these here, but if I go ahead and I pop that in, and I click on Save, what you should find is that you should find that particular field then is available back at the asset level here, and that will go ahead and that will become available just to that particular asset type. So the idea and the concept here is that what you're doing is that you're basically applying custom fields to a particular type of asset, not the overall parent of, say, fire blankets, for instance, or something like that. So again, it gives you the ability to create a level of granularity that is specific to those particular types of assets. And gives you the ability to be able to record additional pieces of information at that particular level. So that's a fair bit of information around asset types and a lot more detail than I would go into when it comes to things like the basic asset creation video. The other thing I would also mention as well is that what you can additionally do is you can additionally designate particular prefixes. What I mean by that is that something that you may or may not have noticed when we created that particular asset was that the ID for it was an FIR, F for Freddy, I for Indigo, R for Romeo. And the reason why that was the case was because when I created this particular fire blankets asset type, and in actual fact, it was specifically, we jump up one level here, it was specifically when I created the fire blankets asset type. What I designated was I said that the code for the ID should be FIR. So every single time I create an asset and I use the asset type of CAB 223 blanket, or fire blankets, actually is probably the better terminology I should be saying here. So every single time I create an asset and I use the asset type of fire blankets, then what you'll find is that the ID begins with an FIR sequence as well. Now, that doesn't, just to be very clear here, that doesn't give you the ability to be able to edit the number. The ID field, and this is a question that we do get fairly commonly, the ID field is what's referred to in the database world as a unique identifier. And what that simply means is that the ID contents is something that we create sort of as an anchor in the ground to designate what the reference number is for that particular asset. We do give you the ability to be able to edit the first three letters, hence that FIR piece. And so that is something that's a level of customization that you can apply to the ID or of the actual asset itself. But we don't give you the ability to change the number for no other reason other than that number is the unique piece about this particular asset throughout your Loc8 system. To that end, bear in mind that you do have the ability to be able to use the reference number and the serial number fields as your unique piece of information. And we do have a brand new feature that's hidden right now, but we can get enabled for you if you want, that basically forces the contents of the reference field to be unique. So if you want to have your own unique identifier throughout the system, then what you can do is you can get in touch with us, and what we'll do is we'll turn on a great new feature in the background that basically makes that particular field, the reference field, unique throughout the system. So that's asset types. So then what we'll do is I'll move on now to the idea and the concept of asset life cycles. And then what we might also do is that we might also delve into some of the things that you can do with regards to custom fields to sort of just wrap things up. And let me just sort of see here, bear with me for 1 second. Let me just see if any of our participants have got any questions. So nothing at this point, so that's no problem at all. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to fire in. I'd be more than happy to answer those at the end of the session as well. So life cycles. Basically what you are able to do with life cycles is, I like to think that the idea and the concept here, that this is very much like the customization that we offer around job types. What that means simply is that when I go ahead and I create a brand new job, I can choose what type of job I'm creating. The idea also here is very much the same when it comes to job statuses. In other words, when I want to check into a job, or the job is on site, or it's en route, or it's completed, or it's closed, we give you the ability to customize that list as well. And so the idea here is the same. It's very much the same concept here as well. And so from a life cycles perspective, what I'm able to do is I'm able to begin to add in my own asset life cycles. There are three key sections. So the first one is active, and that's probably the one that's most commonly used. And obviously that's a green status, and you can see that here in this particular test asset that we created. You have the ability to be able to go ahead and create, brand new ones, and make changes to those new ones to say that this is a, test type, for instance, and I can go ahead and simply just click on save there on the right-hand side. Inactive is effectively statuses, as it says, is for assets that are under repair, withdrawn, or retired from regular operation. So these are not ones that we're going to completely discard or never use again. This is sort of that middle ground area, and it's got a great little sort of gray color to go with it, and you'll notice that there with one of those assets. And then last but by no means least is the idea of scrapping or just simply disposing of assets as well. Look, at the end of the day, we are an auditing system. And so the purist in me hates to see, assets or asset information get deleted. The purist in me says that you never delete anything that's created in your asset register. What you do is that you update the status of those assets to try and better reflect what the condition of those assets are. We have customers who are involved in things like rental agreements, or they lease equipment, and there's a whole range of scenarios where this occurs. And these asset types are an awesome way of allowing for that. So I have seen customers who have an asset type, asset type, my apologies, an asset life cycle or an asset status of leased, for instance. And what they do is that they simply go ahead and they pop that in to the actual asset itself. And what that means is that when they go ahead and they add in, say, the status column to the actual overall list, what you've got there is you've got a terminology. Well, there's nothing wrong with operational. It's completely relevant in some situations. Maybe the term leased is better indicative of what speaks to you and what speaks to your list of assets, because that's a terminology or an idea or a concept that you use internally inside of your business. So again, this is all about customization. This is all about giving customers the ability to be able to apply a level of customization to the actual system itself. Now, one other extra tip here as well, and that is that if you classify your assets or change the status of your assets, a particular asset, I should say, to inactive. In other words, if you were to set the status of the asset to, say, decommissioned or procured, for instance, what you would find, for those of you who have our scheduled maintenance add-on, or preventative maintenance add-on, I should say, is that you would find that those particular assets would not be included in the creation process of that schedule. So let me sort of just flesh that out a little bit to go into a bit of extra detail. If you have a whole stack of assets that are contained in a preventative maintenance schedule, and what you do is that you know that each of those assets is touched every 6 months, if you also know that one or two of those assets should not be included in that scheduled maintenance list, in other words, it should not have a job generated for that particular asset, well, you can change the life cycle. You can change the status of that particular asset to inactive. And what that means is that in actual fact, that asset will not be included in a job that is generated as part of the maintenance schedule process. So this is a really, really great and handy way of, and I use it in inverted commas, removing assets from a schedule. This is fantastic, because what it ultimately means that if you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of assets in a preventative maintenance schedule, and you want to go ahead and remove one of those assets from the schedule, then you don't have to do anything more tricky or anything more difficult than simply just change the status to being inactive. And what you will find is that you'll find that is not included in the job generation process. So it's nothing more difficult than changing the status of the asset to make certain that it is not included in the schedule creation process. And it's another really, really amazing example of how that whole schedule maintenance add-on and the whole idea and the concept of schedule maintenance and assets and these life cycles is all a really amazing piece of functionality from the general perspective of being able to manage your assets. And for some of you who have businesses where you're managing air conditioning units, so water filters, and things that basically need to be touched sometimes but don't need to be touched others, because of the reality being that the agreement's ended. You don't have a maintenance agreement with that customer anymore. So you want to make certain that the job is, you want to make certain the asset's not deleted, but you also want to make certain that the job is not generated and created to clutter up your life. Then that's one of the really cool ways to change that. And then as I said, what we'll cover off is custom fields and the ideas and the concepts here. as a last piece. And as I mentioned, I'd love to take any questions that anybody has, or to sort of cover off anything that you'd love to query about. I see a few of you are still with us, so thank you so much for that. And then we'll wrap things up at that point. As I mentioned at the beginning of the session, I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but we do record these sessions, and we will be making them available on our Vimeo account. So, custom fields. Custom fields basically is the idea and the concept of being able to create a custom field group, so site details in this case, and a bunch of additional custom fields in that overall list. So the concept here is the same as it is in our jobs area, it's basically the same idea and the same concept as well. And so that is that what you're able to do is that you're able to create a custom field group, in this case site details, and you're able to add to that a list of custom fields. I think the thing I would want to mention, and I think the thing that we get a lot of questions around, is what can you do with these particular fields? So let's go ahead and create one here. If I go ahead and click on add field, and I call it, say, a John field, for instance, then this little type section here gives you the ability to add in some additional, basically define what this field will actually do. So there's a couple of obvious things here, things like dates, and it is literally a date. It's a calendar that comes up when you want to update that particular field. A text field, literally just a raw text field. A number field. Please note with the number fields that number fields are literally limited to numbers. This is not a character thing. So if you have dashes or hyphens or squiggly line brackets or percentages, you will not find that in there. This is a number limited down to specifically a number field. Things like Boolean, which is very sort of a techie and nerdy terminology for basically saying true or false. So is the statement, is this particular field true or false? Contacts. Nothing more difficult than the idea and the concept of being able to look through your list of contacts for that particular customer. This is a great example right here. As an example, tenant name, and you might have tenant listed as a contact. And so what this does is basically gives you the ability to be able to go ahead and add in the physical contact as well. URL is hopefully literally what it sounds like, and that is the web address. A couple of more obscure ones that we don't have a lot of people use, but I know there's a couple of you out there that do use it. Things like an asset field. This is literally linking an asset to that particular field, a site field. And then last, but by no means least, the list option. And the list option is hopefully exactly what it sounds like. This is a quite common used option. It's applicable when you have things like a set list, obviously, of results that you want to limit people to choose from. If I jump into one of my other data fields that I have here, and I play around with, say, the mobile data one, for instance, and I go to edit, and you'll notice that we have a list here. This is the best example of it here. I have a field here called iPhone storage space. I've got a list of 16 gig, 32 gig, 64 gig, 120 gig, and 256. And basically what I have done is I have literally created those options myself. It's nothing more difficult than that. And I can add to that list whenever I want to. So that means that I can create structure around the contents of the field, but I can also limit exactly what those options are. The tip I would provide to people is, when you don't know, just choose text. So if you have any concerns about what is going to be available in there or what might be put in there, just choose text, because it's the beautiful catch-all. It's going to cover all those bases to help you out from a creation perspective. So that is custom fields. So let me jump into some questions here, and let me have a look at those and see if we've got any there. Drew, thank you so much for that. That's fantastic. So that is a great question. as these various fields are set, can they be edited or changed once assigned? So certainly what you can do is that you can make it's not so much that you can make changes. What you can do is that you can create additional fields. One of the things that Drew, you may have noticed is that those fields are unique across the system. Sorry, unique in the assets area. My apologies. Sorry, unique in the assets area. And the reason why those fields are unique in the assets area is because something that I didn't really go over much, but every field has the potential to be a column that can be added to the overall layout, to the overall view of your system. So the fields have got to be unique. Now, what we are going to do is that we are going to provide customers with the ability to be able to edit the existing field in the coming months. So we will be providing customers with the ability to be able to edit the existing field. So for instance, I want to go in here and I want to change, this particular field here. Maybe I want to go ahead and have a look at my, iPhone 6 data field. And go ahead and actually make some changes to here. We will be giving customers the ability to be able to edit those particular fields. What we won't be doing anytime soon is the ability to be able to edit the type. And there's a very good reason for this. And that is that if you take a field from, say, text to a list, for instance, a bit of an extreme example to be fair, but if you take it from, say, text to a list, what you'll find is that you have a data integrity issue because if you had it text previously and wanted to move it to list, for instance, then we don't have any way of being able to ensure that the existing contents of that field is maintained from a technical perspective, and also at the same time limited down to that new list that you created as well. We will be giving customers in the coming months the ability to be able to edit fields. But right now, what you can do is that you can create additional fields to add to that list and change that change to. So you will be able to change them later on down the track. If you have fields that you have in there that you don't want in there, in other words, you have a whole bunch of fields that you'd like to get deleted as an example, or maybe there's some changes that you want to make, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We want to help in any way we can. And so if there are some specific changes that you wanted to get made right now in lieu of that feature becoming available, please reach out to me, Drew, and I would be more than happy to assist with that particular function. But the simple answer is that what it does right now is it goes ahead and it creates an additional field, and you can absolutely change that to something new. But if there's some specific things that you want to get done, then please just get in touch with me. I'd be very happy to help. And I hope that answers the question that you posed. Okay, so I always like to wrap things up by mentioning the support options that we had. I mentioned them at the beginning. I mentioned them at the end. And that is, don't forget, we offer our help.loc8.com site. Obviously, we have our Vimeo site, which is where we are going to throw up these particular videos at the end of today. And last but by no means least is our support options around help, our help button here on the bottom left-hand corner. So if that's all the questions, Drew, thanks so much for that. What I will do is I will wrap up this today. We'll get this video uploaded to our Vimeo account, as I mentioned. And thank you so much. I know that for some of you, this is quite early. For some of you, it's just another day in the process of running your businesses, and you're spending time with me. And for that, I'm extraordinarily grateful as well. And for some of you, the day is ending, and it's well into the evening, and you've probably finished up with dinner as it is already. So thank you again for for catching up with me. We'll be doing another session next month. We are getting down to sort of the end of the sessions that I wanted to cover off. And so if there are any suggestions, maybe there's an idea that you have that you'd like to, a topic that you'd love me to cover off, then I would be very open to that. What we'll probably do is we'll probably rerun these sessions and sort of start back at the beginning and re-loop around and keep on doing them. So thank you so much, everybody, for spending your day with me. And I will look forward to speaking to you all in the coming days. Thanks so much and have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.